My wife's infidelity and the heartbreaking consequences. Why you should never rely on ancestry kits for paternity testing. If you're questioning the parentage of your children, don't rely on ancestry kits. If you want confirmation of your child's biological father, go for a legitimate paternity test at a certified medical lab. Ancestry tests can be misleading, and in my case, they triggered a chain of events that turned my life upside down. I never thought I'd be in this situation. For years, I believed I had the perfect marriage and a happy family. But within weeks, everything changed. I'm sharing my story not just to find catharsis, but to warn others about the consequences of relying on unreliable DNA tests and the painful truths they can uncover. The beginning of our story. I met my wife in high school. It was the classic teenage romance, sweet, innocent, full of dreams. We married in college, and shortly after, had children. Over the years, we built a life together, raising 5 amazing kids. 3 daughters, 33, 30, and 28, and 2 sons, 24 and 14. I thought we had it all: love, a home, and a strong family bond. We rarely argued, laughed together, and supported each other through life's ups and downs. Yes, like any marriage, there were struggles. I worked long hours, and at times I wasn't the most attentive husband, but I always tried my best to provide. I never doubted that we were in this together. But recently, I thought our marriage was solid. I thought we were happy. And I never imagined my wife, the woman I'd known since high school, could betray me. Then, everything changed. The shocking discovery: it all started with my oldest daughter, who decided to take an ancestry test as part of a school project. She wanted to learn more about our family's history and submitted her DNA sample. A few days later, she came to me in tears, holding the test results. To my shock, the test revealed that I was not her biological father. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Ancestry kits are known to have inaccuracies. I reassured her that, no matter what, she was still my daughter, and nothing would change that. But then, a thought crept into my mind. What if the test was right? I had to know the truth. We decided to take an official paternity test at a certified lab. The results came back, and to my horror, they confirmed that I wasn't her biological father. It was gut-wrenching. I had raised her for over 30 years, and now the truth was undeniable. She wasn't my child. My mind was spinning, and I couldn't process it. The shock, betrayal, and heartbreak overwhelmed me. The worst part? Seeing my daughter so upset, blaming herself. I couldn't bear it. I broke down in front of her, and though I'm ashamed to admit it, I couldn't hold it together. But in that moment, I wanted to make sure she knew I would always love her, no matter what. Nothing would change that. Digging deeper after the results, I knew I had to get answers. I couldn't live in this uncertainty. I gathered my other children except for my youngest, who was still a teenager, and sat them down to talk. I didn't feel it was appropriate to involve her yet, but I had to understand how deep this betrayal went. I asked each of them about the situation, hoping to understand how long my wife's infidelity had been going on. Was it one mistake or an ongoing affair? Could we move forward from this? But as I looked at my children, I realized the biological question didn't matter to them. They didn't care about the DNA test results. They just cared about me and saw how much pain I was in. Their support was overwhelming, and it gave me strength to keep going. But I had to know the full truth. So, I tested the other 3 children. To my horror, none of them were biologically mine. It wasn't just one affair, it was multiple. The betrayal wasn't a one-time mistake, it spanned years. Confronting my wife, I confronted my wife, hoping for an explanation, hoping she would come clean. Instead of apologizing, She dismissed the paternity tests, claiming they were flawed, all four of them. She couldn't even take the situation seriously. The more I pressed her, the more defensive she became. She even tried to guilt trip me, saying, "We've been together since high school. Do you really not trust me?" But how could I trust her when the evidence was clear? There was no escaping the truth. Seeking guidance, I've been struggling with how to move forward. My heart tells me to leave, but we have 5 children together. How could I just walk away from everything? If there's any chance of saving this marriage, I want to explore it, even though rebuilding trust seems impossible. I've decided to take several steps. 1.gt second paternity tests to rule out any errors. 2. Confront my wife again, this time in front of all my older children, to hold her accountable. 3. Talk to my youngest about the situation and offer her the option of a paternity test, leaving the decision to her. 4. Seek therapy to help me process everything and stay strong for my children. 5. Consult a lawyer and prepare for divorce if my wife doesn't take responsibility and change her attitude. Update: after our confrontation, my wife apologized, but refused to explain herself. She offered no closure or answers. Then, one evening, I came home to find that she had taken her own life. The guilt is overwhelming. I pushed for answers, and now I'll never know why she did what she did. The hardest part of all this has been watching my children grieve their mother while trying to support me. It's been a nightmare. A reminder to cherish your family, please. Don't wait until it's too late to express your love. Cherish your family while you still can. A year after the divorce was finalized, and just a month before it was officially over, I met someone new. I was hesitant about getting into another relationship so soon, but my friends encouraged me to give it a try. We took things slowly, and eventually, I opened up about my past. She was understanding and sympathetic, so we continued dating. But then, she went quiet for a week. No texts, no calls. When she finally showed up at my door, she dropped a bombshell. She was pregnant. At first, I thought, not again. But she explained that she'd just found out, and the timing was uncertain. She assured me that it wasn't cheating, and it was up to me how to move forward. We decided to stay together. Fast forward to now, and my life has changed completely. My company is thriving. We've bought a house, gotten married, had 2 more kids, and adopted a dog and a cat. Our families get along great. But last Saturday, my ex showed up unannounced at a family gathering at my wife's aunt's house. She tried to paint me as the villain, accusing me of abandoning her and our child to start a new family. She claimed I left them with nothing and was behind on child support. She'd befriended my wife's cousin's wife, and together they confronted me, intending to expose me as a bad person. My wife defended me, but her aunt interrupted and threatened to ruin my business reputation. We left in shock, with my wife furious and ready to take on anyone slandering me. The next day, my wife's dad called to discuss the situation. We met for lunch and explained everything. They were understanding, but my mother-in-law suggested I help my ex with child support and even become a father figure to my ex's daughter. My wife was upset by her mom's suggestion, and while most of the family supports us, one person still believes my ex's version of events. We've chosen to ignore the family drama for now. Some people have focused on the fact that I gave the condo to my ex. At the time, I was feeling low and still had some love for her. I thought it would be easier for her and our child to have a place to stay, so I gave it to her, even though my lawyer advised against it. My wife didn't cheat on me, she was involved with someone before we met. But we took things slow. After a year, we moved in together. My mother-in-law's spiritual beliefs are strange, and I've started questioning them. I don't feel ready to talk to my wife or anyone else about this, so I'm keeping it to myself for now. A lot has happened recently. I gathered all the divorce paperwork, made copies, and shared them with my wife's family. Reactions were mixed. Some people admitted they'd always thought my ex was a bit off, but they didn't speak up, assuming it was obvious. They apologized for not stepping in sooner. We're not that close anyway, just extended relatives. Other family members had initially sided with my ex, but after seeing the documents, they apologized and even offered to support me in suing her. Some still believe her, including my cousin, his wife, and a few others close to them. They accused me of falsifying the documents. My brother-in-law, who's close with my cousin, hasn't said much. He's staying neutral, but hasn't admitted he was wrong either. I filed for a restraining order. The temporary one was denied, but a hearing is scheduled soon. Last week, I had a meeting with one of my biggest clients. We've known each other professionally for years, though we're not friends. When he arrived, he pulled me aside and asked if it was true that I'd abandoned a child. I reassured him, briefly explained the situation, and offered to show him my divorce papers. He trusted me and said he didn't need the papers. He even offered to help me in the future. I was angry that she had targeted my business, but things got worse. My lawyer was preparing a cease and desist letter, and I was debating whether to sue or wait. Then, on Saturday, things took another turn. I took my kids to the mall for some summer clothes. I left my wife at home to relax, as she'd been having a tough time lately. When we got home, I handed the bags to the kids and told them to go inside. As I was bringing in the rest, I heard someone say, "Mommy." I turned and saw a little girl standing there, looking scared. Then I saw my ex approaching. She said to the girl, "Yes, that's who she's supposed to be." My ex started yelling at me, accusing me of abandoning our daughter while I started a new family. I pointed out that the difference was that I hadn't been forced to take responsibility for my new child. It was my choice. She continued arguing, questioning how I could bring other kids into our home while not prioritizing ours. I told her she was being unreasonable and asked her to leave. She refused, so I threatened to call the police. She challenged me, urging me to be reasonable. Just then, my wife came outside and told my ex that the police had already been called. She advised her to leave before they arrived. I grabbed the last bags, and when I looked out the window, I saw my ex dragging the little girl roughly by the arm to her car. Now, I'm genuinely worried about that little girl. The police arrived, we showed them the camera footage, and I filed for a temporary restraining order again. This time, it was approved. I've decided to drop the cease and desist letter and move forward with suing her. I found out that she no longer lives in the condo, but I'm not sure where she's staying now. Our parents have spoken to me about the situation. They condemned her actions, but still encourage us to try to work things out. I've never been one to follow advice blindly. Aside from this, life has been going well. My wife has been sleeping on the couch for weeks, and we rarely communicate except when it involves the kids or our future. I've been emotionally distant, even though she's been trying to reconnect. I haven't forgiven her, and I'm struggling with the concept of forgiveness. It's not just about trust, it's the deep sense of betrayal I feel. Even after weeks of knowing the truth, I'm still conflicted and no closer to a decision. I've been thinking about this for almost a month, and I'm still unsure. I can see that she's genuinely sorry for her actions, and this isn't like her at all. She's been working hard to repair our relationship, but I still can't reciprocate. The idea of forgiveness feels impossible. I also think about our kids and the impact a divorce would have on them. There are moments when I consider divorcing out of spite, knowing it would hurt her. I know it sounds cruel, but that's the anger I carry with me. She's promised to do whatever it takes to save our marriage, but she'll respect my decision. On one hand, there's the anger and betrayal after 14 years of marriage. On the other, there's our kids, the love we've shared, and the fact that this behavior is so out of character for her. I see her remorse, and I'm torn. After weeks of back and forth, I've decided to proceed with the divorce. My wife has respected my need for space. She's done everything right after the incident. We've started talking again, becoming a bit closer than before. We even shared a bed again, though nothing more happened. I tried, but I couldn't envision being close to her again. A couple of weeks ago, she tried to initiate something in bed, but I asked her to stop. She respected my wishes and apologized, saying she'd take things slow if I ever wanted to try again. Despite some improvement, I still couldn't do it. I can't move past the betrayal. When I told her I wanted a divorce, she cried but accepted my decision. She offered to leave, but I needed time alone. She helped me pack, and as I was about to leave, I saw the tears in her eyes. That's when it hit me. This was truly the end of a 16-year relationship. We hugged, and it felt comforting, probably for the last time. We're now moving forward with an amicable divorce. I want to thank everyone who gave advice throughout this process. I know some would have forgiven her and tried to move on, but for me, this is something I need to do for myself. I gave it my best shot, but in the end, I realized things could never be the same. I don't regret the 16 years we spent together, especially because of our two wonderful girls. The future is uncertain, but I'm both nervous and excited to see what comes next. But things started up again in the past couple of months. She says they didn't have sex, but I don't fully believe her anymore. A week ago, we were all hanging out again, drinking. I was cleaning up when I saw her in the bathroom with him. I opened the door and saw her hand on his head, clearly making out. I walked back to the couch, trying to process what I had just seen. I went back to confirm, and sure enough, they were still at it. I didn't confront them, just grabbed my keys and slammed a drawer, which got their attention. She came out and apologized, but I didn't want to hear it. I left the house, and she kept calling me. I finally answered and had a tough conversation with her. We ended up walking to our car and talking in the rain. My phone died halfway through, which felt like the worst timing ever. But I got some answers. That night, I made the decision to try and make it work. I still love her, and that feeling never really went away. Some people might call me crazy, but I believe we can work this out. I know it won't be easy, but I'm willing to try because, despite everything, I still want her in my life. I can truly be myself with her. She doesn't judge me. She loves me, flaws and all, in a way I've never felt in any other relationship. But she cheated on me, man. There are plenty of other women who can be that person for you. It's not that I don't care about her cheating, I do. It's just that I understand why it happened. I missed the excitement, the novelty of something new, the texts, the emails that I stupidly started reading, and that's what made me write this post. The playful flirtations. It happens sometimes. She got caught up in it, and I can't entirely blame her for that. I know some of you probably want to punch me for saying that. In my darkest moments, I've thought about it, but I would never cheat on her. I've had opportunities to cross boundaries in a committed relationship, but it's not about who did what. It's not about whether I did or she did. Honestly, I don't even know what it's about. I'm not afraid of being alone, and I don't think I'm being irrational. I genuinely want to make this work, and I think she does too. We both want this to work. Even though this happened right before my birthday next week, lucky me, right? Update. So, I broke up with her and moved out today. That's the update. I found out more about the cheating, but I'm not going to get into all the details. It didn't change my decision. It's been a long 3 months, and I'm relieved that it's finally over. I appreciate all the encouraging words, as well as the not-so-encouraging ones. I met my husband right after graduating from college in a new city, and he swept me off my feet. Our first date was pure magic, and years later, we tied the knot. Now, we have a 1-year-old daughter. We both have demanding jobs, and juggling childcare and work keeps us pretty busy. Despite this, my husband always made time for me and treated me like a queen, even when I didn't give him the same level of attention. In early 2019, I started getting to know one of my coworkers, Nick. He's around my age, married with 3 kids. Nick and I began going to work outings together and having conversations. Slowly, we became more physically affectionate, sitting close and engaging in light touches. I suppose he reminded me of the passion my husband and I had when we were younger, which drew me closer to him. Eventually, we started an affair. Deep down, I knew it was wrong, but I continued. I didn't think about the consequences it could have on my husband. This morning started like any other. My husband usually takes a shower before me, so I take the chance to snooze a little longer. Last night, he mentioned stopping by Costco on his way home, so I decided to grab his phone and add a few things to the shopping list. I knew the lock code, so I opened the Notes app to make the changes. To my surprise, I found a folder with dates going back to March, and it continued up until last week. Curiosity got the best of me, so I opened one of the entries, and what I read shocked me. It was a diary, something I never knew my husband kept. As I read the first few entries, my heart shattered. The diary was about my affair and how my husband was dealing with it. From the dates, it seemed he discovered my affair about a month after it started getting physical. I quickly locked his phone and hid it. When he came out of the shower, I helped him search for the phone I had hidden. Luckily, he has a separate work phone, so he wasn't too upset about not finding it and left the house with only that phone. I took the day off work to read through the rest of the entries. The more I read, the sicker I felt. In the first few months after my husband discovered the affair, nearly every entry was about his plans to win me back. He talked about taking us on a vacation, buying me flowers, cooking my favorite meal, anything to make me forget about Nick. But despite his efforts, I kept seeing Nick. I lied to him repeatedly. As time went on, his entries became more desperate. They focused on his depression and loneliness. He wrote about how he would cry every time he knew I was with Nick. At night, he would imagine Nick with me, and it made him physically ill. Still, he kept writing about not wanting our daughter to grow up with divorced parents, as he did. Then, about a month ago, one entry stopped me in my tracks. He wrote about one night when I was with Nick. After putting our daughter to bed, he cried as usual, but suddenly, the tears stopped. He said it was like the Band-Aid covering his soul had finally been ripped off. In that moment, he felt a sense of relief. 2 weeks ago, he wrote about wanting to meet someone new, a 40-year-old woman. He admitted he didn't know how to start an affair, but felt curious about having a connection with someone other than his wife. He knew my schedule with Nick and planned to meet her when I was with him. I'm at a loss. I feel so ashamed. I kept telling myself that no one was getting hurt, that the affair would run its course, and things would go back to normal. But I never realized how much pain I was causing my husband. I've cheated on him multiple times, and he's endured it all. What can I do now? I promise I'll never cheat again, but I think it might be too late for me to realize this. Where do I go from here? What can I do to save the marriage I've destroyed?